Day 1. You walk into the Big Brother house. You look to your left. You see a man with pink hair creating a conspiracy theory over guinea pigs. You look to your right. You see a fight break out over a necklace glued together in 3 minutes by the producers. You go out in the backyard and find a women's alliance being led by a man, only to then discover up in the HOH room is a newbie rebellion led by the brother of a bandy-legged troll. What is this madness? You signed up for this? Right before the slime hits you in the face, doing your best to maintain your dignity, you give up, turn around, walk out the front door, only to find it has now been replaced by an entire closet full of fat 70s clothes. So you walk back into the Big Brother house. Internet, my name is Peridiam, and welcome to a new summer. We're back. It's week 1. It's insanity. You can't make this stuff up. That's the beauty of unscripted TV. And just how beautiful is it? Well, let's find out. Number 5. There's an old saying, we can't know where we're going until we know where we've been. Let's start at the top with the first season of the game, with the first week of the game from the year 2001 with Big Brother 2. BB2 is my number 5 craziest first week, and what a week it was. You know you've got a contender when you open up with Dr. Will showing off his fat wardrobe. He really puts the PH in PhD. As expected, there's a lot that happens in this first week. The first ever showmance in the history of the show occurs between Will and Shannon. We get a Cold War between Kent and Autumn over a car. Dr. Will holds a fast with the entire house over his love of spiritual cleansing, also known as trying to gauge how much control he really has. Boogie nominates Cheryl as a pawn, the first ever pawn, to give Nicole a giant middle finger. And then we get the ever so lovely all-out war between Kent and Justin. Remember Justin? Justin not only pees on the windows, but then also considers bashing open his romantic interest's head before holding a knife up to her throat. Justin is expelled not long after, and this week somehow only comes in at number 5 on my list.
I told everyone that I created the fast for spiritual cleansing, which was total BS. It puts me in a position of power, and if people are wondering what I think, then I have some ability to control them.
And in this instance where I'm putting up a likable person against someone who's not very likable at all, I think they know that their fate is sealed. It's basically me being a one-man jury.
By a vote of 5-3, Cheryl, you are now evicted from the Big Brother house.
Stand up like a man, put your hands up, so I'm gonna knock the out of you, bro.
It's the second time.
First time I
killer.
I put the knife right here. I don't touch the knife, put the knife right here, and I go, would you get mad if I killed you? There's no way you could even see that as a threat. If you could see it, please explain it to me so I could see it. My strategy was confusion, because when you confuse people, they don't know what's going on, and they make bad decisions.
Number 4. If Big Brother 2 was a team effort to get itself as high as number 5, then consider number 4 to be a one-man job. Because it is. The 4th craziest week 1 is Big Brother 23. When Farmer Frenchie won HOH in that first week and unleashed a reign of terror and terrible gameplay across the house. I will never forget watching the feeds of BB23 and being just utterly flabbergasted every single day just how chaotic this one man was. And because of him, the entire house was stirred up into a frenzy of just unbelievable strategic antics. Frenchie first wants a big guy out, so he targets Brent, but then he has a conversation with Brent for the first time and decides, you know what, people are more complex once you get to know them. So he targets Christian. But Christian wins the wildcard comp and becomes safe. So despite promising to never nominate or go after a minority, he then nominates Kyland and Alyssa for whatever ingenious reason, despite both of them being in his mega alliance called the Slaughterhouse. Frenchie then decides to lead a one-sided rivalry against Derek X, but then DX wins the veto, and now Frenchie is finally landing on Travis. Where did Travis come from? Derek uses the veto on Kylan despite knowing that his number 1 ally Travis was going up and out the door. Meanwhile, Frenchie makes another mega alliance with all of the women in the house and wants to call it a women's alliance, led by Frenchie. Make it make sense. This entire week was a constant torrent of just frenzied behavior that began with a mega alliance and ended with the same alliance's collapse, all because of one man. Oh yeah, and right before the eviction, he had Tiffany cast a rogue vote as just like a cherry on top. Because why not? Why not add more chaos?
I promise y'all, if I win HOH, every one of y'all are safe. Every one of y'all, I promise.
So sorry, Britain Christian. I got my eye on you. I'm trying to set myself up long term. I was originally targeting Brent, but I completely misjudged him.
Woo! First wild card comp, all mine. I got safety for the week.
You might as well put my whole week in a casket and bury it.
Last night I had a dream that I went fishing. And in order to catch a big fish, you have to have the perfect bait.
You just fell right into my trap. So now that I know you're forming alliances behind my back on my HOH, you just became my target, buddy. This is absolutely horrible. My week has been going crazy as it is, and we play a veto and he wins. This is the worst possible outcome.
Frenchie went back on his word to the Hawaiian Stallion.
I promise y'all, if I win HOH, every one of y'all are safe.
Travis, you are evicted from the Big Brother house.
Number 3. I used to say number 3 was the worst first week HOH reign ever, but I do think Frenchie actually took that crown from this player, but that doesn't stop this first week from being just as, if not crazier, than the burnt toast that Frenchie cooked up, because number 3 is week 1 of Big Brother 14. Right off the bat, we start with 4 veteran players returning to the game, but this time they're not players, they're coaches. Right. Good one, Allison. Coaches with frickin' laser beams. The coaches are there to play a different game. It's like fantasy Big Brother while in Big Brother. We put a game in the game so you can game while you game. Which means we then have to start with this instant eviction of Jody, one of the biggest fans in the cast, and yeah, that hurts. That sucks. Don't like that. But right after this season devolves into a battle of the coaches with Boogie versus Janelle and then the men versus the women, which is ultimately why we see Frank and Kara get nominated, one from each of their teams. But never mind that, we also have Russell Hance's brother, Willie Hance, at the helm steering the ship, and if you have ever watched Survivor, you already know that we are in for a wild ride. Willie ends up holding a rebellion against the coaches where he gathers all of the new players inside of his keep, his HOH room, and batters down the hatches, inspires them to stand firm and play for themselves. Don't let Dan's mist or Boogie's funk get the better of them. But it's Big Brother, you should expect madness to leak through, and Chef Joe stirs the pot against Willie, which leads Frank to take the wheel himself, which leads to Willie getting annoyed at Frank, which then leads to a massive blow up in the backyard over Fruit Loops and whatever else people argue about in this insane asylum. The coaches may be playing their own game, but what nobody really realized is that it was basically Big Brother's version of split-screen Mario Party. And I guess Willie was Bowser? The house leads a revolt against Willie, the one guy who was trying to inspire them to do the complete opposite. The vote flips like 5 times over the week between Frank and Kara, and Frank ends up staying after the cast vote out Dan's player to spite Willie and knock him down a peg. Does anyone want DiGiorno?
I say this because I love you. You're screwed. You're screwed. You have the whole house down there talking about you.
I mean, this is crazy news to me.
Dude, I've been begging everybody to keep you in this house. But don't f with me right now, brother.
Well, I'm just trying to have a real talk with you, man. There's no need to raise your voice.
Listen. I've been doing everything for you.
Day number 2, you said, I promise you will not go on the block. And I'm on the block. That's all I got to say.
This is getting bull right here.
But
I hope you go home this week.
Okay.
I hope everybody changes their votes and you go home because you a shady. I'm not going to be awkward. I'm a grown-ass man.
I'm not going to be awkward either.
When I come in and get something to eat, I'm going to sit down there and eat some food, Fruit Loops or whatever.
Eat your Fruit Loops. I ain't worried about it.
Number 2. I've always believed that the first week of any season of Big Brother isn't really indicative of how the overall season is going to turn out. Pretty much any Big Brother season is going to start with some kind of a bang. You really need to see where you're at like a few weeks after that to determine if said season can keep the momentum. And I say all of that because number 2 is Big Brother 19. And really, when you have an HOH like Cody who goes rogue and nominates a third of the house by the end of the week alongside a notorious returning player and shit stirrer in Paul, how can you not expect it to be this high? First off, we lose Cameron in the premiere, similar to Jody leaving in the first episode of Big Brother 14. Day 1 evictions suck, and it sucks to see Cameron go too. From there, we see Kevin take a $25,000 temptation, which brings Paul back into the game from the previous season to continue their streak of getting second place. In the first HOH comp, Josh blows up at Megan just out of the blue, despite Josh being selfish and taking the golden apple. You don't bite the apple. Yet somehow Megan is the bad guy. Cody then wins HOH, and it begins. He targets Megan because of bad vibes or something, and then Megan mistakenly thinks that Jessica calls Alex a panda. So Megan talks to Alex about this, Alex then talks to Jess, and then Alex and Jess conclude that Megan misheard her and it was just a big mistake and no harm, no foul, and everyone can move on and get along. And yeah, no, it was a shit show, obviously. Alex and Jess team up against Megan, believe that she's making racist accusations to slander Jess, to intentionally slander Jess, and on top of Josh and Cody not liking Megan, Megan decides to quit the game. She had PTSD from her time in the military, and this environment wasn't doing her any favors. But that's only the first half of the week, believe it or not. Right after this, Cody targets Alex for being a threat and nominates her after Megan left. But then Cody decides by himself that he wants to take Paul out. Paul is just too much of a threat, too much control in the house, got that silver tongue. So Cody blatantly throws the veto to Alex, which pisses off half the house and most of his alliance, and then at the veto meeting, he nominates Paul as Alex's replacement. But Paul won the pendant of protection earlier in the week due to a twist called the Den of Temptation, and guess what, Cody? Paul is safe. So now Cody nominates Christmas because she's close to Paul. Great, so basically now half the house is mad at Cody for either nominating them or not looping them into his plans. And then footnote, Christmas randomly breaks her foot one morning and goes to the hospital. But she gets better. Meanwhile, Paul flips the vote to keep Christmas, which results in Jess and Christmas getting into a big argument. And after all is said and done, we are left with Jillian walking out the front door after this crazy week. Wait, who is Jillian again? It's almost as if she was just a fan inside of the house who got to watch a week go by from the front row, and now it's time for her to leave.
It's really difficult being in here.
Everybody has a good heart here, and you're a snake and a bully.
I think it's that she went and manipulated how I said that. Lied and made up a racist comment.
I did not make up a racist
Then
comment.
what happened? What are you doing?
Megan will no longer be participating in Big Brother this summer.
Nobody is going to know that I'm putting Paul on the block until the veto meeting.
My replacement nominee is Paul.
The pendant keeps me safe for the next 3 evictions, therefore I cannot be nominated.
How could anybody even strategize at this point? I have had to put a third of the house up for nomination so far. This is the worst twist that could possibly happen to me right now.
You want to talk to me or do you want to listen?
Do I want to talk to you? You had days to speak to me
Then
and
get
you
out
chose
of my
not
face.
to.
Number 1. I'm not sure what to say for this one. I mean, I've written a bunch about it. I will talk about it, but oh boy. So I guess I will say this at the beginning, that this is kind of a first week that just needs to be watched. It needs to be experienced more than summarized. Here we go. The craziest week 1 in Big Brother history is from Big Brother 9. Till Death Do You Part. How apt. The special Valentine's Day season all about love, where the players were coupled up and played the game as pairs. Yeah, it was an absolute train wreck. There are 10 arguments, fights, blow-ups, and 2 house meetings in the first week, averaging 2 per episode over the span of 5 episodes. First, we get Sheila and Adam getting into a spat because Sheila doesn't think that she should be paired with Adam. He keeps calling her Ma. She's not his ma. This leads to some choice words between the two that puts an instant target on their back. We then see the whole Jacob versus Parker fiasco arise, where Jacob calls Parker a snake, despite Parker having the power to instantly evict anyone of his choosing. I actually made a whole video about this one moment years ago if you want to check it out. I still believe Jacob is the worst player in Big Brother history. But yeah, we get a house meeting over this. It's a big ordeal, and it leads to Jacob and Sharon getting evicted by day 2. But that is just the tip of the iceberg, because the week keeps sinking into the ocean. Another big ordeal arises when Jen gets paranoid over Allison, because Allison is paired up with Jen's real-life boyfriend Ryan, and Allison has a crush on Ryan, and that's weird. This whole situation is just so weird. Jen worries that Allison is gonna sabotage Jen's game, so to get ahead of the news, Jen tells the whole house first about all of this and sabotages her own game before Allison can. Eat shit, Allison. Nobody syncs my own game except for me. So now a second house meeting is called, where everyone swears in the Bible that they don't know anyone else. Which then sets us up for what happens next. Sheila and Allison think that it would be funny if they pretended to be lesbian lovers who knew each other going into the game, which wasn't true, and this causes more paranoia. Meanwhile, Alex and Amanda are the new HOH, and they get into a spat because Alex thinks that Amanda is just getting too close to Parker and wants her head more in the game. It gets weirdly territorial. Because Sheila and Allison are apparently lovers, this leads James to think there is a fourth relationship hiding amongst the group, and he believes this to be the case because the toy in the guinea pig cage has 4 colors, meaning 4 relationships, meaning we have officially lost the plot. James then tells Alex about this conspiracy theory of his. He thinks Parker and Amanda are a couple, which connects a dot. That explains why they're so close to each other. Alex then tells like half the house, including Amanda, which in turn leads to Parker losing his cool on James for spreading this rumor, which, just for the record, wasn't true. But through all of this, Amanda annoys a lot of people, and later on, Chelsea attacks Amanda for being such a gossip and drama queen. This blow up in the backyard leads to Joshua also attacking Amanda with one of the most disgusting things ever said inside the house. But if all of this crazy wasn't enough, we end it with Jen's last hurrah, her last campaign pitch to survive the upcoming vote, where she is sitting opposite her real-life boyfriend Ryan, trying to stay in the game. Jen goes to Sheila and lets her in on a secret. Ryan, Jen's boyfriend, is racist. He's racist. Do you want to keep a racist in the game, Sheila? Understandably, Sheila doesn't know what to believe, so she confronts Ryan. Hey, you racist? Ryan then confronts Jen, and then Jen gets mad at Sheila, of all people, for talking to Ryan about it. What is happening? Jen and Sheila get into a massive argument, and this puts the final nail in Jen's quickly closing coffin. This entire week 1 is the epitome of a hot mess.
Oh my God, he's calling me mom. He's calling me mom. I don't take that. I don't like it. Okay, I'm the oldest person in the house. Well, thank you.
Parker's a snake.
I overheard somebody call Parker a snake.
You're looking like a liar.
You guys can look at me. I overheard somebody say Parker is a snake.
Who was
That's
it?
not my business.
Get out of here.
I did the right thing, and now everybody's looking at me like.
Liar! Don't lie! Do not lie anymore.
Chill out.
Get over yourself.
Jen and Ryan are dating, so that's what the whole situation was.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
This is my.
Oh my God, I'm like the most naive, gullible freaking person.
I swear that I have not known anybody in this house.
Half these people aren't even religious. Like, who? They're swearing on a bunch of words.
We can be anyone we want in this house, and we decided to be lesbians.
Don't tell me, like, what?
But we didn't want him.
Oh my.
Inside the guinea pig cage that we have in our house is this Rubik's Cube block thing that has 4 colors. So it's like, well, maybe there's now 4 secret relationships. And I was like, there has to be another couple in the house.
Possibly Amanda and Parker might have had a prior.
For the record, Parker and I do not know each other.
Yeah, so you guys can shut up if whatever you're thinking about.
All right, man.
Yeah, all right. Shut.
I didn't say who was who. I said keep your eye out because I think there's other relationships here.
We'll talk to her because you said to me, so you bitch.
Your name never came out of my mouth. Come out here yelling at me. Because I'm pissed off. Listen to me, please.
Can I get HOH? You're going down. Love you. Hate this bitch.
How am I a
bitch? Bitch, get inside.
Ryan is also racist. What? Ryan is also racist. What?
She said straight up that I'm a racist.
Yes, she did. Why would she say that?
I never said he was
You
a
did
racist.
say
You
that.
said that.
I didn't
never
say
said
that.
he was a racist.
You
He's
were
not
gonna
a
be on the
racist,
block,
and
and
I would
you
be
knew
the
Allie
first
was
person.
too.
I will be the first person to absolutely say that.
Ryan is also racist.
And those are the top 5 craziest week 1s in Big Brother history. Feel free to let me know what you think about all of this. If you've gained anything from this video, perhaps we'll end with some honorable mentions like Big Brother 3, 4, 10, 11, 13, 17, like half the seasons, honestly. There are a lot of crazy week 1s in the history of the show, and if you wanted to swap them out, I wouldn't really blame you for it. A crazy huge thank you to my patrons on the screen for blessing this mess. Thank you for being there for me. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Don't forget to take a Xanax on your way out, and I will see you in the next one once I go watch something a little more wholesome.
I want to tell you, you have been my best friend in the house. I'll never forget you, and I can't wait to see you. I love you. I wish you the best of luck and have a great rest of the summer with your daughter. You're a little taste of home. The way you talk, the way you carry yourself, you remind me so much of being back home in North Carolina. I hate to see you go, and you will be greatly missed. You may have went off on a lot of people and made them mad, but I've enjoyed every minute of it. You are definitely the most entertaining person in this house this summer. I think you've been dealt a bad hand in this game. And I'm gonna miss our little ice cream dates at night.
I love him.